In last video we discussed about RBCs. In today's video we are going to discuss about hemoglobin, different types of hemoglobin and functions of hemoglobin. Hello students, I am Dr. Faisal and you are watching Bioshin classes. So let's get started. Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, it has a molecular weight of 64,000 daltons and it's a type of chromoprotein. Chromoprotein. What is meant by chromoprotein? Chromoprotein means, chromo means color. It's a type of protein which gives color to the RBCs. It's the presence of hemoglobin which gives color to the RBCs. hemoglobin को chromoprotein इसलिए कहा जाता है क्योंकि इसकी वजह से RBC का कलर रेड है. ओके, so this is a chromoprotein. Hemoglobin is a type of conjugate protein. What are conjugate proteins? See, we have two kinds of proteins. We have some simple proteins and we have conjugated proteins. Simple proteins are those which have only protein in them, which are made up of only amino acids. And conjugated proteins are those which have a proteinous part and they have a non-proteinous part. कंजुगेटेड प्रोटीन ऐसा प्रोटीन होता है जिसमें प्रोटीन के साथ साथ कोई नॉन प्रोटीन पार्ट भी प्रेजेंट होता है. नॉन प्रोटीन पार्ट मीन्स इट हैज सम metal ion, some vitamin, anything may be present associated with a protein. So hemoglobin is a type of conjugated protein. When hemoglobin is a type of conjugated protein, let's see the structure of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, it will be made up of two parts, non-proteinous part and the proteinous part. Proteinous part is the globin. Globin is the protein part and non-protein part is the heme. Okay, this heme, it's further made up of two things, iron and the porphyrin ring. Iron is in the form of ferric ion, Fe2 positive ion, and porphyrins, they are just the rings, 4 pyrrole rings joined with the help of iron molecule. Iron porphyrin के साथ combine करता है तो heme molecule बनता है, and when heme it joins globin, जब heme के साथ globin जुड़ जाता है तो we get hemoglobin. So if we break hemoglobin we will get two things, first globin and second heme, and if we break the heme we will get iron and the porphyrin. And in one mature hemoglobin we have 4 globin chains. एक hemoglobin के अंदर 4 globin chains होती है और 4 heme के molecules होते हैं. So this is the structure of the hemoglobin. If we talk about types of globins, globin is a type of protein. So different types of globin chains can be there. There can be alpha chains, beta chains, gamma chains, delta chains, zeta chains or epsilon chains. Just the name you need to remember. Alpha chains, beta chains and gamma chains are very important. Alpha chain contain 141 amino acids, beta contain 146 amino acids, gamma contain 146 amino acids. So different types of globin chains can be there. Hemoglobin जो है वो हेम का बना है और ग्लोबिन का बना है. ग्लोबिन डिफरेंट टाइप्स के हो सकते हैं and by the combination of these globin chains we can have different types of hemoglobin. So let's see what are the different types of hemoglobin molecules. If we see types of hemoglobin, we have a long list, but all of them are not important for you. I have just summarized all of them, but what are important for you? Number one, adult hemoglobin, which is called HbA. It has 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. I told you hemoglobin it will be having 4 globin chains. एक hemoglobin में 4 globin chains होगी. अब कौन सी 4 है? अल्फा है, बीटा है, गामा है, एप्सिलॉन है. उसके बेसिस पे हीमोग्लोबिन को क्लासिफाई किया गया है. HbA में अल्फा 2 चेन्स और बीटा 2 चेन्स प्रेजेंट होती है. HbA2 it has 2 alpha and 2 delta chains. HbF which is a fetal hemoglobin, it has 2 alpha and 2 gamma chains. HbA1c it's a glycated hemoglobin, it also has alpha 2 and beta 2. अल्फा और बीटा दोनों के साथ ग्लूकोज भी जुड़ जाता है. दैट्स व्हाई दिस इज नोन एज ग्लाइकेटेड एंड इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट इन केस ऑफ शुगर पेशेंट्स. ओके, एंड इफ वी सी इन केस ऑफ फीटस, फीटस के अंदर ये 3 तरह के हीमोग्लोबिन प्रेजेंट होते हैं जो कभी भी एडल्ट फॉर्म में प्रेजेंट नहीं होते. लाइक पोर्टलैंड 1, गोवर फर्स्ट, गोवर सेकेंड, दे ऑल हैव डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ चेन्स. If I say what is important for you, the adult hemoglobin and the fetal hemoglobin. Adult hemoglobin it has alpha 2 and beta 2 chains, and fetal hemoglobin it has 2 alpha and 2 gamma chains. These chains, if we see, they have different affinity for oxygen. The highest affinity is for gamma chains as compared to the beta chains. If we see the fetal hemoglobin, it has more affinity for oxygen as compared to the adult. It is because of the presence of gamma chains. Because fetus, it has gamma chains, it has more affinity for the oxygen. Okay. So let us see some basic differences between adult and the fetal hemoglobin. Fetal hemoglobin and adult hemoglobin. If we see the fetal hemoglobin, it has 2 alpha chains and 2 gamma chains. But adult hemoglobin, it has 2 alpha and 2 beta chains. Okay. Fetal hemoglobin, because of the presence of gamma chains, as I told you, it has more affinity for oxygen. And adult hemoglobin, it has less affinity for oxygen. What is the importance of this fact? It helps to transfer oxygen. See, fetus has more affinity, adult has less. It helps to transfer the oxygen from mother to the fetus. If it has been opposite, the female would never have been given the oxygen to the fetus. क्योंकि फीटस के हीमोग्लोबिन की एफिनिटी ज़्यादा है, इसलिए ये माँ के ब्लड से ऑक्सीजन ले पाता है. अगर ये उल्टा होता तो फीटस को कभी भी ऑक्सीजन नहीं मिल पाता. Fetal hemoglobin, it has less lifespan, and adult hemoglobin, it has more lifespan. These are some of the differences between fetal and the adult hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin, it combines with different molecules, like it combines with oxygen, it combines with carbon dioxide, carboxyhemoglobin, or it combines with the carbon monoxide. So different types of derivatives are formed when hemoglobin it joins with different molecules. I have mentioned some of them, like oxyhemoglobin. It is formed when hemoglobin it joins with oxygen. So oxyhemoglobin is hemoglobin plus oxygen. Carbaminohemoglobin is hemoglobin plus carbon dioxide. So when hemoglobin it joins with carbon dioxide, it forms carbaminohemoglobin. This is a very important term. And another is carboxyhemoglobin. This carboxyhemoglobin it's formed when hemoglobin it joins with carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide poisoning के अंदर carboxyhemoglobin बनता है. And normally our blood it has carbaminohemoglobin. This is a very important term you need to understand. Then methemoglobin. Methemoglobin is when hemoglobin it combines with oxidizing agent. When it combines with oxidizing agent, what happens? The Fe2 positive in hemoglobin it gets converted to Fe3 positive ferric form. So this is known as methemoglobin, in which the Fe2 form it gets converted into Fe3 positive form. Sulfhemoglobin is formed when sulfonamides or sulfa compounds they join with hemoglobin. Okay, so these are some of the derivatives of hemoglobin. You need to remember three of them: oxyhemoglobin, carbaminohemoglobin, and carboxyhemoglobin. The application of these derivatives will be in the chapter of respiration. Okay, so what are the normal levels of hemoglobin? If we see normal levels as per your NCERT, 12 to 16 gram of hemoglobin is present in 100 ml of blood, which is also called as 12 to 16 gram per deciliter. Okay, 12 to 16 gram. Males they have 13 to 16, females their normal value is 12 to 15, and newborns they have 18 to 22. Relatively again, if we see the newborns they have higher levels of hemoglobin. Males they also have higher levels of hemoglobin, and females they relatively have lower levels of hemoglobin. Okay, we will discuss why. In females, if we see, because of menstrual loss, every month the blood is lost, which results into the reduced hemoglobin levels. Second important thing, estrogen. This estrogen it also has inhibitory effect on the bone marrow, so they relatively has less hemoglobin in blood. If we talk about in case of newborns, they have higher hemoglobin levels because they are always in hypoxic state. जो फीटस है, जो एम्ब्रियो है, वो माँ के पेट के अंदर हाइपोक्सिया में होता है. देयर इज लेस ऑक्सीजन. तो इसको कंपनसेट करने के लिए इट इंक्रीजेस द हीमोग्लोबिन लेवल्स. इट्स जस्ट लाइक यू गोइंग टू लद्दाख. Whenever you will go to the high altitude or Ladakh, what will happen? Your body will try to produce more hemoglobin to compensate less oxygen which is present in the environment. Similarly, the newborns they produce more hemoglobin in order to compensate the hypoxia which is present inside the uterus. Okay, so females में भी low है, newborns में ज़्यादा है. Males, they have higher levels because of the testosterone. They have testosterone which increases the hemoglobin levels because it has stimulatory effect. Okay, so this is a normal level 12 to 16. Whenever the hemoglobin levels they reduce below normal levels, this is called as anemia. So what is the definition of anemia? Anemia is a type of disorder in which the hemoglobin levels they are below the normal levels for a particular age, for a particular sex. Okay, so we see males, females, they have different levels. So anemia will be different for males, anemia will be different for females, anemia will be different for 50-year-old individual, and anemia will be different for 2-year-old individual. So according to the age, according to the sex, the anemia is defined. And what is anemia? It is less hemoglobin levels. Okay, then if we see the hemoglobin chain disorders, we have already discussed. We can have qualitative disorder and we can have quantitative disorder. If the chains they are defective, or if the chains they are reduced or absent. Sickle cell anemia is an example of qualitative disorder because the hemoglobin chain it is defective. Beta chain of hemoglobin at 6th position, there is a missense mutation which causes change in the shape of RBC. And thalassemia, the chains they are less in number, either less either absent. Accordingly, we have alpha thalassemia, beta thalassemia. We have already discussed that. The link will be given in the description box. You can check that video. This is hemoglobin chain disorders. Now what are the functions of hemoglobin? The hemoglobin it is involved in the transport of gases, especially if we see oxygen and carbon dioxide. The hemoglobin it takes oxygen from the lungs and delivers to the tissue, and takes carbon dioxide from the tissues and delivers outside via the lungs. So it carries both oxygen as well as the carbon dioxide. pH regulation. Hemoglobin it acts as a buffer molecule. How it acts as a buffer molecule? Let's understand. Hemoglobin molecule it's made up of proteins, or it's a type of protein which is made up of amino acids. If we see amino acids, they have both amino group and the acid group. Amino is the basic group and acid is the acidic group. So if the blood it has more acid, it's going to react with the base part, and if the blood it has more base, it's going to react with the acid part. So hemoglobin buffers both the action. It can react with acid, it can react with the base, and it prevents the pH to change. Okay, so it regulates the pH of the blood. Then it also helps in the blood flow regulation because hemoglobin, if we see, it follows a hemoglobin dissociation curve, follows a S-shaped sigmoid shaped curve. S-shaped sigmoid shaped curve you will read in the chapter of respiration. It's a very intelligent curve. The tissue which has less oxygen, or the tissue which has less blood flow, less oxygen, there it delivers more oxygen. At that point it delivers more oxygen compared to the tissue which has more oxygen, it delivers less oxygen. So it helps in distributing oxygen itself as well as the blood flow, as well as it regulates the blood pressure of the blood because it is involved in the formation as well as the destruction of a molecule that is known as nitric oxide, NO. So nitric oxide is also known as endothelium derived relaxing factor, EDRF. So this nitric oxide it's helpful in dilating the blood vessels. Hemoglobin can form it, hemoglobin can destroy it. So it helps in the you can say dilation of the blood vessels, and when it dilates the blood vessels, it plays a role in the blood pressure regulation. If we summarize, we discussed what is hemoglobin, what are the types of hemoglobin. We discussed what is hemoglobin, what is the structure of hemoglobin, what are the different types of hemoglobin, what are the different derivatives of hemoglobin, normal levels, and what are the functions of hemoglobin. This is all about hemoglobin that you need to remember, and this knowledge will be applied in different chapters of your NCERT. In our subsequent lectures, we will be discussing about disorders of the RBCs and erythropoiesis process. If you like this video, then please share with your friends and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you have any suggestions, you can write in the comment section. Thank you.